I get this random email, not a random email, an email from the recruiter who had recruited me for this role that I signed for. And she's like, do you have time today to talk? I have some urgent updates for you. Hello, clowns.
I'm Ummi.
I'm Yuchen, and we're the hosts of Clown Vibes Podcast.
We're just two best friends who get together to laugh and discuss a variety of topics.
From all things pop culture to navigating through adulthood as Asian Americans and more, with our very own clownspin, of course.
We're so glad to have you here to clown around with us, and we really hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome back for another episode, clowns. We hope that you have been enjoying our first 3 episodes so far.
Yes, and I just want to say, I think this is our last episode that we're doing before we switch to better mics. So
yeah, we've heard you. We're making improvements.
We heard ourselves. It was bad.
Have you been seeing all the Cheer stuff on TikTok?
Yes, you guys remember Cheer season 1 was like my biggest obsession for a really long time. I don't think a season 1, maybe Love is Blind, if that came out after Cheer season 1, but that season 1 was just amazing. I think I binge watched it. I hadn't binge watched like a docuseries in a long time, and obviously they're from Texas, or the like school is from Texas.
Yeah,
so I think everything crazy happens in Texas.
I always drive through Navarro. Well, I guess like
really,
I see the exit for Navarro when I drive to Dallas, like Houston to Dallas, because it's on 45.
My mom used to always buy like that fruit cake that's like super famous from Navarro. Remember how, like there's that store that they even filmed at for Cheer? Anyways, she used to like buy it for Christmas and no one ate it. And it's so expensive. I'm just like, you do realize you're Asian, right?
Did she eat it?
No. I think she just really tries to like buy into the whole like white people culture.
Love that for her.
Okay, but what has been actually going on in Cheer this week?
Okay, this is what I have gathered, and it is very complex because it's basically around Gabby and Ladarius, and they're just making TikTok videos back and forth, like addressing each other's statements, but I can't like figure out how to get it in a succinct way. So based on the videos I've seen, basically Gabby came out maybe a month or 2 ago that she did blackface while she was at Navarro. Her reaction to that, or her like excuse for that, was, oh, I was being hazed and everyone told me to do it and I didn't know. And so I don't remember any reactions post her making that statement. But then a week or 2 ago, Ladarius basically got on TikTok and was just like, I'm gonna expose everyone, and was saying like, oh, he told Gabby not to do the blackface and she should have listened to him because they were hooking up. And he added a clip of them like making out in the dark to his TikTok. And
I just want to know, did she know she was being recorded when they were making out?
She has to have, because they had the flash on, like it was like a front camera.
Oh yeah.
Cool video, whatever. So she had to know. There's no way. But I think the funniest part is Ladarius makes like some one-off comment that he doesn't like blondes. And then like everyone in the comments was like, oh, no wonder Gabby had dark hair when she was at Navarro, but she's like blonde now.
Oh, she's blonde. So that must have been years ago.
Yeah, like they were hooking up while they were at school.
Yeah. I wonder if they were hooking up like during those seasons of Cheer.
But they must have been. Because I think she was only there during the filming stuff. Like, I don't think she was at the school pre-Cheer season 1.
I don't know. Did I just miss something where he was bi? Like, I thought he was gay.
Me too.
Which I was just like, okay, this storyline has taken a turn. But then it's taken like so many turns.
I guess he never really said.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't really relevant to the story.
Yeah. And I saw this clip when they were on Watch What Happens Live with Andy, where they're the bartenders and Andy's like, tell us your secrets, like who's hooking up with who. And
Oh,
they're
God.
all kind of laughing. And like Gabby and Ladarius are looking at each other. And Monica like touches Ladarius's arm and is like looking at Gabby and is like, we're not going to tell.
How does the fact that Monica knows, messy.
Well, it must have been very like open because
Yeah.
she was sleeping over at his apartment or dorm or whatever daily, according to him. So
Daily. I hope he's washing his sheets.
I haven't seen, okay, actually I did see her video, but I scrolled past it because I was too tired to watch it.
Okay, I saw a high level overview of it.
Okay, great.
And one, she's just like so frantic in like a public bathroom, like making this video.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I only looked at the comments for 1 second, and the comments were just like, why are you in a bathroom? And I just scrolled through.
She really had to go. She really had to go make this video. She couldn't even find like the family shared bathroom. She had to go into like
the one with multiple stalls.
Yeah. And then too, she's like super tan. I think people were like, are you in a tanning salon right now? Like no relevant questions.
No one cares what she has to say. They're just like commenting on her like demeanor.
Okay, and 3, I think she ends it with like Jesus still loves me or something like religious.
Interesting.
Which I'm just like, only in Texas would you make this excuse for Jesus.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know that she was religious.
Yeah.
I guess it's an easy thing to throw in.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you are.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm excited to see. I mean, I feel like that's it for the beef. Like, what else are they gonna throw out? And honestly, it's sad, but like, you know how so much drama has surfaced around blackface? Like, like we've seen it happen in The Bachelor multiple times. And unfortunately, it always blows over. So I don't know if like people are ever gonna learn, but I definitely do think this drama is very short-lived.
Very. And also no one cares about Cheer as much anymore. And
but like there's not gonna ever be another season just because of like or if they're gonna do another season, it's gonna be like with a completely new crowd. Like they're not gonna bring back the old alums.
No. There's just been so much side drama associated with
they're chaotic.
Netflix, I'm sure every time something comes out, it's just like, God damn it. Like, how did we not vet this shit?
I think Freebie's gonna pick it up.
Even Freebie wouldn't be caught dead around this crazy side mess. What else has been going on?
Well, Jill Biden kissed Kamala Harris's husband.
Okay, but if you watch a slow down video, she's really like kissing they're kissing like right next to each other's lips, not actually lips, but the angle makes it seem like they're kissing on the lips.
The angle is just like, well, here we go. Let's do this.
So confidently, no reaction post the kiss, just going on with their lives.
You would think that there has been like significant training on how to greet certain people within like politics within the US and also like they have engagements across the entire world. I bet like their staff trains them extensively on like where to lean and like how to greet them. And so the fact that this like was just so close, I was just like, what?
I think maybe they don't get coached on how to greet each other because essentially they're like first wife and second husband. Like, I don't know, not as important.
Oh, well, now they will.
They could have just hugged. They could have done something else. They really threw a risky move in by trying to do the kiss.
It's not even like American culture.
No, exactly. Like, why didn't you just hug? That's like way more normal.
Or shake hands. I think they were very confused.
Yes. They played it off well. I will give them that.
This like transitions very nicely to our main topic of this episode, but so many layoffs happening again this week. Affirm being one of them, which first of all, fuck Affirm. I'm not a big fan of Affirm or any of the buy now, pay later companies. So I'm happy to see that company in the bad news cycle, but obviously like my heart goes out to everyone affected. I just hate the company itself.
Also,
and then
you could have seen that coming when in the pandemic, 70% of the job postings were for Affirm.
That's true. And DoorDash. Oh wait, why is it always Affirm and DoorDash?
But also Zoom did layoffs, but I think they handled it extremely well.
So well.
And for those who don't know, the CEO took a 98% pay cut and also disclosed his salary from last year, which was only $300K, which I say only, it is a lot of money,
surprising.
But it's very reasonable for a CEO. There are people who make that money at way lower levels at other companies. So he took a 98% pay cut. His SLT took a 20% pay cut, and he publicly acknowledged his mistakes, which I thought was very admirable. And actually, for my company, all hands open Q&A, I submitted the question, like, if we have layoffs, is our CEO going to take a pay cut? And I put in parentheses, like Zoom.
Wow, you are so feisty behind the camera or like behind the anonymous.
I didn't come up with the question, but my coworker who also submitted it was like, I'm going to submit this. So I was just like, camaraderie, I'll do it too.
I was telling Nico this and he was like, but what's going to happen to like his stock? Because that's how the majority of these execs get their money. And I think he was saying the Twitch CEO or the Amazon CEO, I don't know which one, their base is only like 150 or something, but like they have like stock up the wazoo.
Okay, got it. Okay, so this is a little misleading.
Yeah.
When he said 98% pay cut, he means just base salary.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
That's still good. I mean, he's still taking a pay cut.
Yeah, and it's better than anything else we've really seen or that I've seen.
Yeah, I want to give props to Zoom. Although, like, remember when this first happened, we were like, how is this happening to Zoom? Like, people are always using Zoom.
Us right now.
Maybe they've really like plateaued in the number of like new users.
I'm sure. And people are pushing to go back into the office more now. So that is also probably decreasing Zoom. Also, most companies like mine have both Google Suite and Zoom on the side. So it's an easy way to cut down expenses to just cut Zoom. You can just use Google Meet. And everyone has like one suite that has some video conferencing system. Like the Zoom add-on is not necessary.
Another company that's doing a really good job, I think, is Apple. And we haven't, I think they are like the last tech giant that we haven't heard from to do layoffs. And the guy that I dog walk for actually works at Apple. And when like, I think back in October, I was kind of talking to him about this and he's like, well, we've actually stopped hiring like a whole year ago. Like they did not hire, like they really scaled back in hiring really quickly. So I think after the pandemic, I think they like foresaw what was going to happen and really like try to keep a lot of their employees very early on. So major props to them, but who knows? I don't think this is over. I see news about this every single day, which is why I think we decided to keep our episode, or we split our unemployment episode into 2 parts, just because a lot of this stuff is really relevant right now. And we hope that it like helps someone or just sheds light on the experience itself. So we hope you enjoy part 2 of our unemployment episode.
Okay, so tell us, so you were job hunting, you got one job. How did that go down?
Yeah, so remember, all of this happened like early October, and I was kind of already interviewing and resume dropping. Like even that week, I think I had submitted some applications. And so I had interviews literally the next week, which I feel very grateful for. And so I moved through the process pretty quickly for 2 companies. And I was in the final rounds for these 2 companies within like 4 weeks. So everything like worked out really well for me. I wasn't super stressed. I was really enjoying my fun employment and my break at the time. I still had severance that I was living off of. So everything, I was chilling. I ended up getting one of the jobs while I was in Napa. So it was like a really fun celebration with my friend. And that was around mid-November. So after that, after I got the job, we had negotiated that I would start in mid-January, which was perfect because they were a very similar company to my last company in terms of size. So they didn't have like capacity to onboard me right before the holidays. Especially the holidays is really busy for the retail industry itself. So I was chilling, or I thought I would be chilling between mid-November to January. And for a good month, I think I was peak JOMO that 4 weeks where I had a job offer, but I wasn't working at the time. I wasn't worried about money. All was well. I think I was knitting. I was watching a lot of shows. I was reading. And then the week right before I had to come back home for Christmas, I get this random email, not a random email, an email from the recruiter who had recruited me for this role that I signed for. And she's like, do you have time today to talk? I have some urgent updates for you. And I also knew, because remember I called you and you were very hungover in bed.
Yeah. I was like, no way. 1, I don't even have the capacity to understand what this means. But 2, absolutely no way this is happening.
And the thing is that I knew this was happening because I had saw similar situations on like LinkedIn about this happening to people from like larger companies like Amazon. And so I knew that this was a thing, and I had kind of mentally prepared myself, but kind of not. And when she called me, she just basically said like, based on business performance, we had to cut the initiatives that you would be working on. And unfortunately, that means that we had to cut your role as well for this year. That was really hard to hear because there was nothing that I could have done to prevent it. And it's not like I could have done anything to prevent me losing my other job either, in my opinion.
Yeah, no.
It was all out of my hands.
It was all just happening to you.
Yeah. I think the hardest part in this entire thing is just people thinking that it's their fault when it's not. Like, this is happening to you.
Yeah, it's so far out of your control. It's like people who are looking at you like as a number on a spreadsheet making decisions.
And the hardest thing is like, or at least for me, it's like I never thought that this would happen to me. Like, because, both of us we're high performers. You never expect to get laid off, but you have to realize at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with you or anything you could have done. And that's just something that you really need to like drill inside your head, because it can really like eat at you mentally and emotionally.
Yeah. And like doing one thing differently X amount of months ago, like ruminating over these things is not helpful and not even true.
Exactly.
So no need to go down those rabbit holes.
So the offer was rescinded right before Christmas break, which was really tough. But luckily I had a second company that I was interviewing for within this first round of interviews. And they actually had another role open up in the same role, just like another headcount. And they had reached out to me earlier, but I had taken the other role. And so I just reached back out and asked if I could like just be reconsidered into the process. And they were more than willing to. But also I knew that I couldn't rely on just this one potential offer. And so I had to really go full force in interviewing at other companies and applying for other roles. I will say, I think this second time around in job hunting was very emotionally and mentally taxing on me for multiple reasons. And you were there to like witness it all, as emotional as I have gotten in a really, really long time, I think. But I think like First of all, timing just really sucked because budgets were close. I think
it's the holidays.
Yeah, it's the holidays. People are out. Budgets are looked at and finalized by maybe early January. And that's when new headcounts start coming in. And I was applying during this basically dead period of the month. And so I wasn't getting anything I wasn't hearing back. I wasn't hearing rejections. I wasn't getting like any interviews for a good like 2 weeks. And that really stressed me out because the first time around, I got so many interests like immediately. So I wasn't worried. This time around, nothing. And I also really had to like force myself to take a break during the holiday and to enjoy my holiday as much as I could for the 2 weeks after Christmas.
Yeah.
And I didn't do a single thing for job hunting. And then we were in Big Bend the next week. So I also did not want to ruin that trip as well. But during that time, I was actually getting like some emails back from applications. So momentum was picking up. I think just like getting through that lull was actually very emotionally taxing on me.
It's hard when you're feeling so many emotions, even though like mentally, it's because no one's working right now.
Yeah.
To that point, I know that you were not in therapy in December just because of the insurance situation, which the US is a scam. The fact that you have to have a job to have insurance is fucked. But how did you feel not being able to talk to your therapist about it? How do you feel like the last 2 years of therapy have helped you prepare for the situation, even though you weren't able to talk to her weekly?
Okay, so that's a good point because I wasn't in therapy, but it was mainly because she was on vacation. I think she was traveling for a very long time. And even therapists need to go on holidays. We need to remember that. They're not
That's
here.
Not allowed.
They're not in our speed dial. I will say for people who are worried about therapy and not having insurance, I've had a good relationship with my therapist and we were able to negotiate a discounted rate at that time for the period where I was uninsured. But yes, she was gone because of her holiday. I actually think it went surprisingly well. I don't know. You kind of became my therapist.
I just asked a leading question.
Well, the thing is that because I've been in therapy for almost 3 years now, I've noticed changes that I may not have been able to make when I first started therapy. And separating between like what is in my control and what is not, I think is like a key gradual change that I've made in the 3 years that I've been in therapy. And that is one thing that has really kept me going at the end of the day in this process, because the fear of the unknown is just really, really scary. And when you're so hard on yourself professionally, it can also be really difficult too. But knowing that I will be able to find a job, it might take 3 months, it might take 6 months, it may take a year, depending on your financial situation. Focusing on the facts rather than the emotions, which is difficult, is what kind of helped me get through the day. I did have a pretty fat emergency savings fund, so I kind of knew the runway that I was working with, and just leaning into that fact kind of helped me get through it without needing to talk to my therapist.
Yeah. I think you were able to come up with a really good plan of, if this doesn't happen in X time, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't happen in this time, I'm going to do this, which probably helped conceptualize time-wise, like what was happening. So then you got another offer. Then you got 2 more offers. How did that feel? How did you ultimately decide what to go with? Lead us through the conclusion of this saga.
So the second round of interviewing was a lot harder, just in terms of the interview process. Mentally it was hard, but like the process itself was hard.
Definitely.
I was interviewing for some more competitive roles with like higher salary bands. And for anyone going through a job search process, not even like getting laid off, but just in general, I think, what is the term? Imposter syndrome, I think, is something that we all kind of go through during this process. And I was feeling it really hard during this round of interviewing. And it was just really getting to me. I remember spending hours studying for each interview, which honestly, I think it's just so clownish of some companies who require like such lengthy interview processes. I mean, you've interviewed.
They're thinking too much of themselves.
Exactly. Like at the end of the day, I remember like spending hours prepping for some interviews, and I just could not imagine doing this while having another job at the same time. Like that's just too much. Remember, I'd sent you this packet of this like interview packet that this company gave me of their process for the role. And it's a great role, a great company, but they required at least 10 hours of like actual interviewing. And I was just like, 10 hours for what? Like, I almost feel like you should know if the person is like a good fit for your company within like 3.5, 4 rounds max, I think. And
definitely,
I say 3.5, 4. I think the half and the 4 should be like a one last like culture fit check. I also feel like reference checks are outdated and a little bit useless because
totally.
If you give someone a reference, they're not going to say anything bad about you.
That's how I feel about peer reviews. Like we've been doing peer reviews and it's just like, these are my friends. I'm just going to say they're cool. Like
even if you have something bad to say, you like stress about it. You're like, I don't know how to like not say this.
Just like, I'll tell you to your face. I'm not going to write it in this like company document.
Well, some people do. And that's when you know, like they're really hoeing you.
Yeah, you have to like really look out for those people.
Yeah, but then like you wouldn't request like a peer review from them, you know, you wouldn't send them in as a reference. Anyways, I ended up getting an offer from the first company that I had an interview with in the first round, which was really nice. I wasn't expecting it actually because they made it seem like it probably was, maybe it was like a really competitive process. And when I got that, it was just like a wave of relief. I remember you were really happy for me too. I think everyone was really happy for me. And the package that they offered was like really validating too, because I think like when you are maybe trying to negotiate for a higher salary or looking for a jump in your salary band from one job to the next, imposter syndrome can like creep in a little bit more and say like, oh, am I actually worth like this amount of money? But it was actually like very validating to me, and I was like very happy about it. I also ended up receiving another offer that I just did not really expect because I was in the rounds for like a couple of companies, but I knew I would only choose this other company over this offer if I got it, rather than all the other companies that I had interviewed for. And I ended up not getting the company that I would have chosen over this offer. And so I kind of knew in my gut that I would take this offer. But then getting the second offer really made me go like, whoa, because it was a lot higher. Not a lot. It was slightly higher than the first company. And I think what's really clownish of me is I accepted the first offer before I even got the second offer. But
they give you a really short window to accept.
Yeah, they
did.
They did because they knew my situation. But I would say you always have leverage to push back. I also felt very stressed to accept because when my offer was rescinded, I just was in this fear mindset of me losing an offer. And so because of the situation and the high stress that I was under, I just decided to accept. I also did my due diligence. Like I talked to somebody who was in the previous role who left the company. So I kind of got like an inside perspective on the company that I was going to accept. And I also did my due diligence in like pushing on certain questions around job stability to both like the recruiter and the hiring manager. So I thought that was a really good like validating point to take the job.
And I think before you had taken the job, you had already done the pro con list of this other offer as well. Like you had already thought through like, what if I do get this offer too? Would I even want to take it? And I think you had a really good idea that you didn't want to anyway.
Mm-hmm. But what's so clownish is I was losing sleep over getting this like second offer. Remember, we were having conversations on like renegging my offer, and a lot of people were like, well, are you going to? And I think like I truly was never going to. That's just like not the person that I was. I think at the end of the day, I may have left a little bit of money on the table. And I just want to say that us females, we get a lot of shit for not negotiating or not like sticking up for ourselves. But at the end of the day, like if you are in a high pressure situation and maybe you could have done something a little bit better to get a better offer, or feel like you could have just done something better, I think we all need to be a little bit more gracious to ourselves, especially in this like era of uncertainty,
unknown,
because you never know. And like I think trusting my gut was really good when I chose between these two jobs, because I had a conversation with someone else who was a lot senior at like a completely different company, and he was like, just hearing these two roles, I think you made the right choice in choosing this one company. So that was really validating.
Nice. You were making decisions based on the best information you had at the time. You can never fault yourself for doing things like that. And of course, we all wish we had the information we did today 5 years ago, but it just doesn't work that way, even 1 week ago.
And basically, I'm in this mindset that this doesn't have to be the perfect job, although I am very, very excited about the current job that I'm in. I think it's like a great company. I'm really excited about the role and the people that I'm working with. But kind of just like going back to what we discussed, like we're on our third job, which is supposed to be a lot better than our second. But, maybe the fourth will be better.
Yeah. Nothing is permanent.
Nothing is permanent. Our generation, I think, is really, I don't want to say struggling, but there's a disconnect between like our parents' generation, who have primarily stuck with one job for a really long time and progressed their career. And sometimes these people are in like management positions that we're working with, and they might look down at us like zigzagging as like, oh, not a really great way to like navigate your career. But meanwhile, the Gen Zers are like, yeah, get that dough, get that bread. Like if they're gonna pay a higher salary, like go ahead and jump.
To everyone who says like you really have to have loyalty to your company, like you should stick to one place. You should never, because they don't care about you. You should value yourself. They are not going to value you the way you are. So you have to always do what's best for you. And if that means moving around, that means trying different things until you find something you like, do it. At the end of the day, in 10 years, like you're going to actually have lost more money staying with the same company than if you would have just moved around a little bit more.
And if this past like layoff season has taught us one thing, it's that loyalty is not rewarded.
No, not at all. Some ways I feel like you're getting burned by being loyal.
Yeah. And if I learned one thing in this entire process too, it's that I need to like diversify myself as an asset. Like my job cannot be the only thing in my life that's like a focus point. And that's why, I mean, we're leaning into this podcast. That's why I'm leaning into other things that I'm interested in, because at the end of the day, it is just a job and it is never guaranteed. And the only thing that I can guarantee in my life is like my dedication to myself, wherever like that may lead me. And I think like for 2023, I really need to lean into that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this whole thing. I'm sure everyone, at this point, I'm sure everyone knows at least one person who's being affected or been affected by the situation. And unfortunately, it's just the name of the game right now. But for those who have and are listening, you're going to find something and it's probably going to be better. And you'll look back on this in a few years and just say, haha, I wish I would have just had more fun. I wish I would have stressed less, which is, I'm sure, what you go back and think for so many situations in your life. But this one especially, just remember hey, this is a break that you're getting. And honestly, who cares? Make the most of it and it'll all work out. Thanks so much for listening. You can follow us on all social media at Clown Vibes Podcast or email us at clownvibespodcast@gmail.com.
And if you enjoy our show and want to support us, please like, subscribe, and give us a rating and review. That's it for today. Bye,
Bye,
clowns.
clowns.